Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and this is a surprise to all of us, even Ron Rivera and the guys on the team. Wide receiver switching to tight end, Antonio Gandy-Golden has retired from the NFL and wants to pursue his education further. He retires on the second day of training camp. Again, I'm surprised, but we're going to dive into why it was quite unlikely that he was going to make the team anyway. And we got to take a good look at the rest of the tight end group, because did he retire purely because he wanted to pursue his education, or did he feel like he probably wasn't going to make the team anyway and might as well just go ahead and get a head start on his next endeavors? And again, we're going to dive into the tight end group. I feel like this is a good video to go ahead and take the time to dive into each player specifically, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, their positives and their negatives, and how much they may be able to contribute this season. Because there's a lot of raw there, but there's also a lot of talent. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure y'all pull up every Friday for the Friday night live stream, 7 to 9 p.m. where we talk about everything, not even just sports. And then every Sunday, make sure y'all pull up at 6 p.m. for about an hour and a half for the call-in show, where y'all can call in, y'all can ask whatever questions you may have, or just completely rant about whatever you want to rant about, especially when it comes to the Commanders and especially when it comes to the training camp so far. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, Ron Rivera told reporters pretty much at like the start of his press conference that Antonio Gandy-Golden is retiring from football. Antonio Gandy-Golden is 24, was drafted in the 4th round in 2020 because of his size and his jump ball ability and some surprising elusiveness and quickness for a guy that size, but mostly for his contested catch ability for sure. In this offseason, he made the switch from wide receiver to tight end, not since training camp, but since before then, back in OTAs and mandatory mini camps. He already made the decision he was switching from wide receiver to tight end, gained quite a bit of weight, and it looked like he was actually progressing. And Ron Rivera even said it himself. He said, quote, "I was a little surprised because I thought he was doing a really good job," unquote. Ron Rivera definitely is surprised by this retiring because he felt like Antonio Gandy-Golden was doing better at tight end than he was previously at wide receiver. Because remember, Antonio Gandy-Golden, again being a 2020 4th round pick, he's been here for quite some time. And between injuries or just straight up not even making the team at receiver flat out, even outside of the injuries that he's had, it seemed like this offseason with him moving to tight end, it was definitely a clear path to him making the roster. Now, like I've already talked about in several videos and live streams, I never thought that Antonio Gandy-Golden would even make the team at receiver or tight end this offseason, but that's a good thing. It's highly competitive. I feel like the Antonio Gandy-Golden of today probably could have made a previous Commanders roster within the past couple of years, but I feel like this roster was just too competitive and too talented at both receiver and tight end for him to make the roster. But still, at the end of the day, I would have loved to have seen him in preseason at least to see if he can go out there and ball out against opposing DBs and then change my mind. I wanted to at least see him in preseason. Again, I was leaning more so towards the other guys, which we're going to talk about, especially the guys further in the depth chart. But I was really excited about seeing Antonio Gandy-Golden at least playing in one preseason game, and I wanted to see how physical he could be blocking wise, because that was going to be the main concern. Him moving from wide receiver to tight end, the concern was not passing game wise. It wasn't going to be his receiving ability or even necessarily his separation ability. It was going to be, can he block in the run game? Can he block even in the passing game when he's not designed to run a route? Can he at the very least hold his own and stay in the way? And so far, since I haven't been able to go to see a practice live, I haven't exactly had that question answered. I would assume that it probably didn't look too good at this point, but who knows? Again, I would have loved to have seen him in a preseason game to see how much his blocking may have improved. I wasn't very optimistic about it because, I mean, even as a receiver, at 6'4", his blocking wasn't that great. So moving to a more physical position, I definitely had my worries. But again, this retiring caught me off guard, along with Ron Rivera, like we already talked about. But Antonio Gandy-Golden basically ends his NFL career so far. Maybe he comes back, and maybe it's not even for us. Maybe it's for another team. But he had 1 catch for 3 yards, and he had that 1 carry for 22 yards against the Browns, where it seemed like we were trying to feature him. We were throwing the ball his way more, even though he wasn't able to catch more than one of them. We gave him a handoff in the backfield at 6'4", definitely wasn't our fastest, most electrifying receiver, but we just decided that game we're going to try to see what we can get out of him, and then he ended up getting hurt in that game. His usage rate went up and then he got hurt, and we just pretty much haven't seen anything from him since, other than some really interesting one-handed catches throughout practices the past couple of years in the offseason. But moving on, man, we got to take a look at this tight end group. Of course, technically a tight end one when everybody's healthy is Logan Thomas, but currently he's on the PUP list. But I feel like when healthy, but the problem is, when is he healthy? Even though that last one against the Raiders was just such a dirty play, anybody could have gotten hurt from that. If that injury never happened, are we still looking at Logan Thomas in the same lens of being injury prone? His injury earlier into the season last year was more of a banged up, you can kind of label him as injury prone, but that last one against the Raiders towards the end of the season, that could have been anybody that would be out with an ACL right now, literally anybody. So I don't necessarily want to label him injury prone just yet, but he's on the edge. But either way, when healthy, man, I feel like he's definitely a top 10 tight end in the NFL. He can block pretty well, but we mostly love him for his receiving capabilities, his contested catch, his ability to make the craziest catches near the sideline, one-handed in the end zone. He was our best red zone target when he was out against the Green Bay Packers, along with Taylor Heinicke making some mistakes. And Terry McLaurin, I believe, even dropped the pass in the end zone. But like when Logan Thomas was out, we just had no red zone offense pretty much at any point last year. JD McKissic being out really hurt our 20-20 offense, but when we got into the red zone without Logan Thomas, it was a big struggle. I think the Green Bay Packers game was the game we had the most offensive yards out of the entire season, but it was nowhere near the most points we scored. We were terrible in the red zone, and again, Logan Thomas's absence was one of the main culprits for that. Even though, I mean, still, Scott Turner, you should be able to find a way to get some red zone production out of some of these other guys. Somebody. I mean, now granted, luckily for us, we have a few candidates who I feel like can also fill in that role this season. Even without Logan Thomas, say Logan Thomas is hurt again, we have some red zone threats this time outside of Logan Thomas, so I'm excited about that. But going back to Logan Thomas, if I had to rate his blocking, I would say above average. If I had to rate his receiving ability, especially his red zone threat ability, I would probably say really good. I wouldn't necessarily say elite, but it's like really good to great for sure. Now moving on to John Bates, and as of right now, he's tight end one with Logan Thomas on the PUP list, and Logan Thomas may actually be healthy enough to play week one, but we'll see. But John Bates, coming into his sophomore year, he was ridiculous last year, especially in blocking and the ability to run people over after the catch. I mean, go look at that second Cowboys game, man. He was the only one out there playing with heart, and he has good hands. Now, granted, he can't necessarily separate on his own, but like I keep saying, only like 3 to 5 guys in the entire NFL at the tight end position can do that. 3 to 5 may even be stretching it, because I love George Kittle and he's arguably the best tight end in football, but he can't even get open on his own. He's schemed open by Kyle Shanahan. So that's just one of the weaknesses that if I had to pick one weakness for my tight end to have, it would be that, because there's a lot of great tight ends that don't have that in their game. So as long as you can catch everything thrown towards you, and then the blocking, one of the best blocking tight ends already in the NFL. Pro Football Focus feels like he's the best blocking tight end in the NFL. I'm not going to go that far yet, but he's definitely up there. And I mean, just go look at the tape. There was like a 2-minute and 30-second highlight tape of literally just his blocking plays last year. And there were several rushing touchdowns in there, of course, but there were at least like 2 or 3 that were literally only because John Bates made the block that he made. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I consider him a dual threat tight end. Now, granted, again, he's not going to get open on his own. And I mean, it may actually be even worse than the average tight end as far as route running and getting open. But again, your offensive coordinator is supposed to get your tight ends open more than the tight end's supposed to get open on his own anyway. And if he can catch everything thrown towards him, if he can run people over to get a few more yards, and he's one of the best blocking tight ends in football, I love John Bates. Just like with Logan Thomas, if I had to rate his blocking, I would say elite. If I had to rate his receiving ability and red zone threat, I'd probably go somewhere around average right now, but we'll see, because there's potential there for that to become better for sure. Then you have 5th round pick of this past 2022 draft, Cole Turner. And man, if we're talking receiving ability, I mean, just to get it out the way, if I had to rate his receiving ability and red zone threat, the potential is elite. I mean, as we've seen from his tape with Nevada and what he's done so far in practices this offseason, he has the potential out of the top 3 guys, because ignoring all of the guys that are too raw for it to even matter. Sammis Reyes, Curtis Hodges, and Armani Rogers, all of those guys have crazy athleticism and traits and technically have elite ceilings when it comes to receiving ability, but as of right now, they're too raw for it to matter. Out of the guys that are actually playable on Sundays so far, as of today, Cole Turner has the highest ceiling when it comes to receiving ability, even higher than a Logan Thomas. But at the same time, he's not as good of a blocker as Logan Thomas. Like, if you had to do overall ratings, Logan Thomas would probably be the highest overall, even though John Bates is a better blocker than Logan Thomas, and Cole Turner has easily more receiving capability than Logan Thomas. But Logan Thomas is a nice blend of both, to where he's technically your best dual threat tight end right now, and would have like a higher overall if you were to give them numerical ratings. But again, going back to Cole Turner, his receiving capabilities are unlimited. What he did in Nevada, literally carrying an offense, basically like Jahan Dotson had to do with Penn State, basically like how Drake London did with USC, and which is why this Commanders organization really wanted him. That's why they went after Cole Turner. They went after guys that, when in doubt, they can carry an offense. But when you come here and you already have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and all of these other guys around you, you won't even have to carry an offense. Just do your job. It's going to be easier at the NFL level than it was in college, just based off of what's around you and who's throwing to you as well. Now, granted, Cole Turner had a way better quarterback in Carson Strong than Jahan Dotson ever had or Drake London ever had in college, but still, I mean, I forgot exactly the game where the whole offensive drive was Cole Turner. Literally throw to Cole Turner, throw to Cole Turner, throw to Cole Turner, and after a few throws to Cole Turner, moving all the way up the field, the touchdown went to Cole Turner as well. Defenses literally knew he was their best receiver at tight end, and they still couldn't stop him. They knew Carson Strong's favorite target was Cole Turner. They knew Carson Strong wanted to get the ball to Cole Turner as much as possible, and defenses still couldn't stop him. And then on top of all of that, Carson Wentz loves his big targets. History shows that the Cole Turners of the world are Carson Wentz's favorite targets. Now, granted, like I keep saying, he's never had a receiving group ensemble of shifty, separating, route running, fast receivers like he's going to have this season with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, and others. But still, history has shown that, say Carson Wentz is under pressure, say Carson Wentz is struggling, he's not understanding the playbook, the play calling and things like that. If he were to revert to his safe mode, to his reboot mode, when in doubt, safety blanket, Cole Turner. Go with what's familiar, and Cole Turner is that mold of guy. So I can see Cole Turner having a very explosive and exciting rookie season, and I think he's going to have a great career with us, especially with Carson Wentz throwing the ball. So rating wise, I would say his blocking right now is easily below average. You could almost say kind of bad, even though I wouldn't necessarily say bad. First of all, because his potential is higher than that. There are some tight ends that just straight up have no chance of being able to block. Cole Turner has the size and everything. He just needs better technique. He just needs to stay lower. If you can get him to stay lower and to use his hands correctly, he could actually end up being a pretty good blocker. Maybe to like the level of like a Logan Thomas. Never a John Bates. I don't think he'll ever be John Bates blocking wise, but I think he could be good enough at blocking to at least be considered a dual threat tight end. And then receiving wise, just based off potential, I'll say it's elite. It's definitely not elite as of today. He's a 5th round pick and he hasn't played an NFL game yet, but I'm pretty sure soon enough he'll show that it can be elite, especially when Carson Wentz starts to depend on him more and more as we go in through the season. And then next up, you have Sammis Reyes, Curtis Hodges, and Armani Rogers. We're going to go through them individually, but just to get it out the way, the ratings for all of these guys, receiving potential wise, are elite. Sammis Reyes and Armani Rogers for their athletic profile, and Curtis Hodges for being the tallest player on the team. It's between him and Cornelius Lucas. They're both 6'8". And based off of what Curtis Hodges has done at the college level, being a very dependable target and showing his ability to get open down the field somehow at 6'8". But now let's go through each name, and so we can talk about their blocking as well. It's crazy because as raw as Sammis Reyes is, and he still has some technique things to work on even on the blocking side, but Ron Rivera and several coaches have raved about the fact that he's our most physical blocker right now. That's including the offensive line, and that's even including the pieces of the offensive line that we consider strong run blockers, the maulers, the aggressive and physical guys on the offensive line like Samuel Cosmi, Wes Schweitzer. They all agree that Sammis Reyes is our most physical blocker, but they keep saying most physical. They're not saying best. John Bates is our best blocking tight end for sure. Again, Sammis Reyes, you work on his technique. He has the potential to be the best blocking tight end on this team. And if we're talking about athletic profile, again, based on his RES score, he's technically the most athletic player to ever try the tight end position in the NFL in NFL history, at least dating back to when RAS was able to do athletic profiles, which I think goes back into like the 70s or 60s. But since then, Sammis Reyes is technically the most athletic tight end to ever touch the NFL. So of course his receiving capabilities is beyond elite. The ceiling is of course best of all time, but I highly doubt he will ever get there. If he somehow does, we have a Hall of Famer. But I mean, I wouldn't even put my lunch money on the fact that he'll ever become that good. But the talent is clearly there. And I feel like he's safe to make the roster just off of the fact that he is our most physical blocker. And I feel like, honestly, with him battling injuries now, he looks pretty healthy. And it looks like he's returned, and he may even be 100% right now. But one way to sneakily keep him on the team is for him to start on the PUP or the injured reserve if he's even slightly banged up by the time we get close to the regular season. But I feel like if he ends up being 100% healthy, he may end up getting that third spot with Logan Thomas on the PUP list, and maybe we keep a fourth tight end, which moves us to Curtis Hodges and Armani Rodgers. Me personally, I absolutely love the ceiling of an Armani Rodgers. I can easily see him, if we end up releasing him or trying to put him on the practice squad and somebody ends up taking him, we'll forget about him for like the next 2-3 years. And then next thing you know, Baltimore Ravens tight end Armani Rodgers, top 3 tight end in the NFL. Where did this guy come from? Or he ends up on the Patriots or something, and they actually take the time to be patient and to really teach this guy how to make the transition from quarterback to tight end. And I can see him being a really good elite level tight end with time. Literally a Darren Waller type of ceiling. Or at the very least, if you want him to play as a bigger receiver, he has the Chase Claypool type of athleticism. I mean, he's that much of a freak athlete. Either way, you want crazy athleticism, slightly oversized receiver, or crazy athleticism, slightly undersized tight end. Either way, I want to see this experiment further down the road. He may not be able to contribute a single thing this season, but we gotta find a way to keep him on the roster and make it to where other teams can't get a hold of him, because I truly believe he can be something special. He's very raw, but just like Logan Thomas transitioning from quarterback to tight end, that kind of helps you knowing what the quarterback wants, playing that position and knowing exactly where the quarterback wants you to be and how he wants you to turn his body when you're running the route to open your body up and let him know that you're open. Like all of the little nuanced things that I don't even know about. He has that because he's played the quarterback position all throughout college and literally didn't switch to tight end until the East-West Shrine Bowl week, and he was killing guys that have been playing corner and safety their entire lives there. I don't think he'll ever be a great blocker. I think his ceiling for blocking may be average, honestly, maybe slightly good, but receiving potential, man, literally top 5 tight end receiving potential. So I really hope we find a way to keep him on the team. And then Curtis Hodges, 6'8", it moves the way that he does. I wouldn't consider him an athletic freak, but being 6'8" definitely creates some mismatches against opposing defenses. You're more than likely too small to cover him, period. And then the fact that he can move how he moves, he may be able to surprise some people and get past them. So Curtis Hodges, first of all, when rookie minicamp started, Curtis Hodges was out playing Cole Turner, but then he got hurt. So we haven't really seen him since like that, and apparently he's already making plays in training camp because he's back healthy, and so I'm expecting big things out of him as well. It's going to be really hard. This is a good problem to have though, where you have so much talent in the tight end group. You're gonna end up letting 1 or 2 of these guys go, and I can see either one of them, maybe even both of the guys that you end up releasing, more than likely Armani Rodgers and Curtis Hodges, going elsewhere, and out of nowhere 2 years from now they're really good to elite tight ends. I can easily see it happen. I hope we find a way to just hide them all, keep them all, and don't let anybody else touch them. But I mean, that's just the nature of the sport, man. There's only a certain amount of guys you can keep, and they may only keep 3 tight ends with Logan Thomas on PUP. That may just be John Bates, Cole Turner, and Sammis Reyes, and maybe both Curtis Hodges and Armani Rodgers end up on the practice squad, and I highly doubt both of them are able to stay there all season. Somebody's gonna snatch up one of them, and I'm scared of that. But Curtis Hodges, man, 6'8", not exactly sure how good his blocking will ever be. I would probably give him a higher potential rating blocking wise than an Armani Rodgers, because Armani Rodgers is too small, Curtis Hodges is too big. Now I prefer for my tight end to be too tall than just too small, but at the same time that's still a worry. Being too big, not being able to keep your pad level low, it's a battle of leverage, man. And that's what Cole Turner's problem is. And remember, Curtis Hodges is 3 inches taller. So I'm not sure if he'll ever be a good blocker, but man, his receiving potential. I mean, how do you cover 6'8"? What do you do with 6'8"? How do you game plan for that? Along with having to worry about Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson, and all of these running backs. And then out of nowhere, there's just this 6'8" guy on the field. It's like, what do you do? If Carson Wentz is able to throw it up high enough, it's literally no way any corner should be able to stop him without a pass interference. If Carson Wentz throws it in the right spot where only Curtis Hodges can get it. And he's shown on tape throughout college that when it's thrown up there, he will come down with it. So it's just loads of potential here. And back to the beginning of the video, this is why I felt like Antonio Gandy-Golden probably wasn't going to make the team anyway. But again, I would have loved to have seen him play in the preseason. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Definitely let me know how you feel about the tight end group. Like I've already said, it's the most exciting group on this team to me. Of course, Carson Wentz matters the most, but as far as like what I would be paying the most attention to if I were at the practices, and what I'm really going to be looking at during preseason games, is how well these tight ends are progressing, because the talent is there. That's obvious. There's no denying that. But a lot of those guys are very raw, and I need to see how they develop. And I need to watch their development as they go along to see if they're even playable on Sundays. So again, the tight end group is the most exciting position group out of this entire team for me, easily. And yeah, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors. Let me see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.